Have you ever wondered how banks manage their risks? One critical tool they use is the concept of risk-weighted assets, or RWAs. Today we delve into the nitty-gritty of RWAs, what they are, why they're used, and how they work. Risk-weighted assets are a measure used by regulatory authorities and financial institutions to gauge the credit risk associated with a bank's assets. Each asset gets a weight based on its perceived riskiness. Those deemed riskier receive a higher weight, while less risky assets get a lower weight. The aim is to make sure banks keep enough capital to cover potential losses from these assets. So why do we use risk-weighted assets? First, they help ensure capital adequacy. RWAs help determine the minimum capital a bank needs to hold to absorb potential losses. This safeguards banks' financial stability, enabling them to meet their obligations even in tough economic times. Second, RWAs aid in risk management. By assigning different risk weights to various asset classes, banks are encouraged to assess and manage the credit risk associated with their assets more rigorously. It promotes wise lending and investment decisions. Third, they assist in regulatory compliance. Regulatory authorities use RWAs to make sure banks adhere to capital adequacy regulations. These rules are there to protect depositors and preserve the stability of the financial system. Lastly, RWAs enable comparative analysis. They allow for a comparison of capital adequacy across different banks and financial institutions. Such transparency is vital for investors, regulators, and the public to gauge the financial health of these institutions. So, how do risk-weighted assets work? The calculation of RWAs involves assigning specific risk weights to different categories of assets on a bank's balance sheet. Here's a simplified breakdown. First, assets are classified into different categories like cash, government bonds, corporate loans, and mortgages. Then, each asset class gets a specific risk weight assigned by regulatory guidelines. To calculate RWAs for each asset class, you multiply the risk weight by the nominal amount of the assets in that class. To sum up, risk-weighted assets are a crucial measure used by banks and financial institutions to manage their risks. They ensure capital adequacy, aid in risk management, assist in regulatory compliance, and enable comparative analysis. They're calculated by assigning risk weights to different asset classes and multiplying these by the nominal amount of the assets. So next time you ponder over how banks stay financially stable, remember the essential role of risk-weighted assets.